Hey, what's up guys? Hope you're all having a wonderful day. We are back and once again talking about The Witcher 3. I've been playing The Witcher 3 a lot lately and I've been really enjoying it. My last video was my review on the first DLC, Hearts of Stone, and now that I've finished Blood and Wine, I want to do the same thing. However, I do want to get a lot more in depth on this review because Blood and Wine has a lot more content and new additions to it. The DLC on its own pretty much feels like a standalone game. It's got a very expansive story, a brand new open world, and some cool little add-ons and upgrades to the gear and combat. It also added a home base system where you own your own vineyard and can kind of customize it and renovate it, kind of like from the earlier Assassin's Creed games. I personally really enjoyed it, and it kind of served as like my own personal display case of all my milestones and cool gear. I really like displaying my suits of armors and cool swords I got, and there were some trophy cases where I could display the trophies I got from a Gwent and fist fighting tournament. You can really personalize it to make it feel as if it's yours, and that's something I really appreciated. Renovating the house and yard outside gave you a lot of upgrades, and you can unlock your very own alchemy table and all that. It's all very cool. However, I wish your vineyard could also make you a lot of coin, because you do have to put up quite a bit of coin into it and you don't get a huge return on that investment. That's enough about the vineyard though. I do want to touch on the story briefly. The Blood and Wine story is Geralt's final adventure as a Witcher. It's a really fun one. Kinda like Hearts of Stone, Blood and Wine has its own contained story that features its own new characters and separate side stories. All the characters are really fun and all have their own dilemma. Geralt is summoned to Toussaint by Duchess Anna Henrietta and is contracted to kill a beast that has been murdering knights of Toussaint. Story very much starts off as this like murder mystery, and there's a few interesting twists and shakeups that complicate the story and give it more depth. By the end of it, it definitely feels like you went on a huge adventure, which is exactly what many of us want from The Witcher. Blood and Wine also has a lot of side content where you can indulge in fun little side story threads that can really pique your interest and make you become invested, which is something The Witcher 3 has been great at, and Blood and Wine definitely takes that a step further. There's a lot of fun festivities you can take part in, like a jousting tournament or duel with other knights in arenas. That kind of stuff was so much fun for me to play, and it gives me a lot of Middle Ages vibes, which is one of my favorite time periods, if not my favorite. Blood and Wine really hits that perfect balance of like a historical time period while still having fun fantasy elements like monsters, potions, and magic. The world of Toussaint itself is really good, and when you first enter Toussaint, it feels like something straight out of a fairy tale, with proud knights, princesses, wizards, wine, and damsels in distress. You do learn pretty quickly though that Toussaint has much more to it than meets the eye, and there's a pretty dark story inside the perfect looking exterior. I personally enjoyed this open world even more than the Northern Realms from the main game. Toussaint is much more vibrant and adapts a lot of fantasy feel to it, while the Northern Realms feels a lot more grounded and gritty. So the happy fantasy look of Toussaint just overall felt a lot more fun and lighthearted to me. It made me feel part of the world of The Witcher. The world itself is also really big, not quite as big as the Northern Realms, but for a DLC, the sheer size and content the world has is ridiculous, and I'm so impressed CD Projekt Red were able to create such a vast world such a short period of time. It makes Blood and Wine feel like its own standalone game and really gives you a different experience to what The Witcher 3 normally entails. It just does such a good job of keeping those elements everyone loves about The Witcher 3 while giving us something new to explore and giving the players a breath of fresh air. The city in Toussaint is Beauclair, and it is a beautiful city, incredibly immersive, bustling with people, knights, merchants, making you feel like you're seeing the world through Geralt's eyes as a foreigner. As you're running by, you can hear people kind of talking smack about you or looking at you weirdly like you don't belong there, and I love that stuff. That kind of stuff helps you feel like Geralt, and it's like you're going on the adventure with him. The attention to detail and all the little things you notice and hear are truly phenomenal. The dedication from CD Projekt Red blows my mind, and they even made another all-new open world just for one of those ending missions of the DLC that showcase all the popular fables. And depending on your choices, you might not even get to play in it. So for CD Projekt Red to create that fairly big, beautiful fantasy world, not even have a lot of its players access it, shows how much commitment they put into telling a good story and taking you on this journey. My only complaint for this DLC is I feel like the combat got the short end of the stick once again with the new features. just like Hearts of Stone. In Hearts of Stone, the only new feature to the gameplay were the enchantments. You can make your armor and weapons, which really just increase stats, and they basically did the same thing for Blood and Wine, but with mutations, while instead they just give you extra ability slots and the option to enhance your damage or spells even more. Don't get me wrong, it is great to have and adds more to play for and upgrade. I just think a little more could have been added to bring more variety to combat, because in my opinion, it's probably the weakest part of the game, which again isn't saying much because the game is so good that even the weakest part is still pretty amazing. The rest of the new additions to the DLC are really just building upon what is already fantastic. Even more new monsters were added, which I had a lot of fun researching and fighting, and they all have their different little side stories attached with them that often overlap with the main story. There's also 20 new weapons and armor pieces that are added, and all are great, and you can only find them in Toussaint. You can now fully be dressed up as a knight in shining armor, which I thought was really cool, and there's also a sword you get from one of the side quests that is just straight up insane. It charges up powers as you get hits with it, and once its powers max, this thing does some crazy damage. Like with a full charge, I was killing bosses in 5 to 6 hits on the Death March difficulty. This sword definitely was my savior in that final boss fight. Dyes were also added in the game, which seems like a small thing, but is really nice to have just to make your armor even more customizable and just change up the color palette a little bit. A new mission type was added where you can liberate camps taken over by bandits and monsters. These missions were a lot of fun to me and really tested my skills in combat by fighting like whole swarms of bandits. There's also a fun little boss fight at the end that I also found to be pretty enjoyable. CD Projekt Red continues to set the gaming standard, and this DLC is a perfect example why. Blood and Wine has about 25 hours of gameplay in it, including the main story and side missions, which is more than a lot of full AAA titles are even able to produce these days. Its world and story is of great quality, and just hats off to CD for making the kind of DLC that gamers deserve. Unlike a lot of companies who charge like $40 for a season pass that just has a filler story, uses the same world with minimal gameplay additions and major microtransactions. Blood and Wine is more than worth it at its normal price of $20, and on sale it's usually around $10, or you could just buy the Game of the Year edition that comes with Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone, and usually goes on sale for like $15, which is an amazing deal for a DLC this good, and you get The Witcher 3 along with it obviously, so incredible deal there. That's my thoughts on Blood and Wine, and now I want to hear yours down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, a like would be really appreciated, and if you have not subscribed yet, it's free and it would really help me out. We are almost at 4,000 subscribers, so thank you all so much for that. If you're interested in joining my Discord server, the link is in the description, and other than that, have a great rest of your day, Assassins.